All right, folks, let's talk about the most obvious sign of a bad starter motor. Your engine doesn't crank when you turn the key. You hear that dreaded click, 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 or maybe just dead silence. That's your starter motor telling you it's about to give up the ghost. Now, this could also be a dead battery, so it's important to check that first. But if your battery's got juice and your engine still ain't turning over, that starter motor is the prime suspect. Get that starter checked out by a mechanic you trust. It's better to be safe than sorry, and a new starter motor is a whole lot cheaper than a tow truck and a missed day of work.
Now here's another head-scratcher. You turn the key and you hear the starter motor engage, that familiar whirring sound, but the engine doesn't crank. This, my friends, is another telltale sign of a bad starter motor. The starter motor has a small gear on it called a Bendix gear. When this Bendix gear gets worn out or damaged, it might not engage properly with the flywheel, so you hear the starter motor spinning, but it's not transferring that power to the engine. If you hear that whirring sound, but your engine ain't cranking, get yourself a trusty mechanic to take a look-see. They can diagnose the problem and get you back on the road in no time.
Now let's talk about noises. If you start hearing a nasty grinding noise when you crank the engine, that's a big red flag. That's the sound of metal on metal, and it ain't supposed to be happening. This grinding noise usually means that the starter motor's Bendix gear isn't meshing properly with the flywheel. If it's worn out, damaged, or just not aligned right, it can grind against the flywheel teeth, making that awful racket. Pay attention to those noises, folks. If you hear grinding when you start your car, don't ignore it. Get it checked out by a mechanic ASAP. A little preventative maintenance can save you a whole lot of headache down the road.
All right, folks, this next symptom is a big one. Smoke. If you smell burning or see smoke coming from under the hood when you try to start your car, that's a sure sign of trouble. Smoke coming from your car is never a good thing, but when it's coming from the starter motor area, that usually means it's overheating. This can happen for a few reasons, like a short circuit in the starter motor itself. If you ever see smoke coming from under the hood, turn off the engine immediately, get yourself and any passengers a safe distance away from the vehicle, and call a tow truck. Don't try to be a hero and diagnose the problem yourself. Let the professionals handle it.
This last symptom is a little less common, but it can cause some serious damage if you're not careful. It's when the starter motor keeps running even after the engine has started. You'll hear that whirring sound continuing even though the engine is running smoothly. The most likely culprit here is a faulty starter relay or solenoid. When they malfunction, they can get stuck in the on position, keeping the starter motor engaged even when it's not needed. If your starter motor stays on after the engine starts, you need to address it right away. Continuing to drive with the starter motor engaged can damage the flywheel, the starter motor itself, and even your engine. It's like riding your brakes down a steep hill. You're going to cause some serious wear and tear.